Greetings and welcome to Storytime with the Dangerous Gentleman. And just to remind you, I am the Dangerous Gentleman. No, I did not give myself that nickname, but I certainly did earn it. Last week we talked about some fortunate occurrences that happened during the first year or so that I moved to Yakima and how those things have transformed me and moved me to where I am now. This week we're going to talk about how I learned how to become honest and a specific friend that helped me come out of that. I know I talk a lot about who I was before and who I am now, and that applies in this particular episode too. You see, for the first 40 years of my life, I lived in shame, and I was afraid of being honest and afraid of telling people who I really was and what my deepest, darkest issues were, my stories, the things I didn't want to talk about. There was a lot of things that I didn't want to talk about because I lived in this place of shame, because I thought somehow I was worse than everyone else. Truth is, I'm not any worse than anyone else. My story isn't any better or any worse than anybody else's. But I didn't know that. I thought that somehow I was alone, as do a lot of men, and women too, but particularly men. And that's who I'm going to address because I are one. So, within the first few days of me moving to Yakima, I found a Narcotics Anonymous meeting that I realized I needed to attend. Not because I was weak, but because I felt that urge starting to come back to use those substances again. And it just so happened to be, another fortunate occurrence that between my office and my house where I lived, halfway in between, there was a Narcotics Anonymous meeting that met in about the exact amount of time it took me to walk from the office to the meeting. And so each day I started to walk from the office and getting to the meeting on time, and being able to attend the meeting, and then I would walk home from there. I don't know if anyone in here has ever been to a Narcotics Anonymous meeting, but I had never really been to one, but I knew I needed to be there. And so the very first night I was there, they're very welcoming to newcomers. And so I shared that, and I spilled my guts because I was in a place finally in my life where I was starting to realize that everything had fallen apart. And I thought, here I am, I'm going to share this, and everyone's going to judge me, everyone's going to look down on me, everyone's going to think I'm some kind of crazy weirdo. Well, I shared, and guess what? Nobody did that. One of the basic tenets of Narcotics Anonymous and anonymous meetings in general is a place where you should be free to share your deepest, darkest things, to be honest, open-minded, and willing. Those are three big tenets: honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. And none of those things ever would have described me before, but I started to share in meetings. And at first I was very afraid, but just knew I had to do it. And after a few times of doing that and having no one coming down on me, no one judged me, no one came up to me afterward and said, "Andrew, there are consequences, and you need to do this, and you need to take care of this." No one ever did that to me. No one made fun of me. As a matter of fact, most people just opened their hearts and arms and gave me a hug and said, "Love you, brother." And then as soon as I was done sharing, someone else would share some vile, deep, dark secret that they had kept. And so I felt safe. I felt in good company because all the stuff that I thought was so bad, that was so horrible that I had done or thought or felt, here was another person who had done, thought, or felt very similar things to me. At the time, I also attended a large church that I won't say the name of, but I attended that church. I'm not used to large churches, but I started to go there because some people I knew from Narcotics Anonymous went there. And while I was there, I decided to join a men's group because here's this large church. How do I get to know people? I'm going to join this men's small group. And in this men's small group, I met a guy named Michael. And we got along a little bit. I mean, we just kind of got to know each other a little bit in this group. And then one day, I attended a Narcotics Anonymous meeting, and guess who was there? Michael. I may have this sequence of events out of order a little bit, but all of these things did happen. And then and so I was like, oh hey, I know him from church, and now I know him from here, and I know that he has secrets. I know he has deep dark stuff too. Okay, so then there was another time when I was attending a meeting, and there was a girl there. She was a newcomer too, and she's like, hey Andrew, you want to go check out this open mic night thing? And I was like, I didn't know anybody. I didn't have anything else going on. And here's a cute girl who's inviting me to go hang out at this open mic thing. And I'm like, well, why not? She didn't have a car and she wanted to ride. So I went. And guess who was leading the open mic night? My friend Michael. Now I had met him at church. I had met him at meetings, and now I found out that he's leading this open mic night thing, and he's a great musician and a great singer, and he's just a fun guy, you know. So here I am. I got 3 connections now to Michael, and I'm starting to learn about this guy, and I'm starting to feel comfortable connecting with him. So this was also about the time when my friend Jamie, the guy who invited me to the gym, he said, hey, do you have anyone else who you think might be interested in coming to the gym? My first thought was, I'm going to see if Michael wants to go do this. So in the mornings, I asked him, I said, hey, you want to go to the gym? He's like, I'd love to go to the gym. I have a membership, but I never really take the opportunity to go because he didn't have a car. So I started picking Michael up at 5:15 in the morning so we could hit the gym at 5:30. And so every day on the way to the gym and on the way back from the gym, we would have these 10-minute conversations, just checking in with each other, because now we knew that we were both lovers of God and we both had struggled with substance abuse in the past. And so we had several big things that we could connect on. And then we started working out at the gym. And so now we're busting our butts in the gym. And so we've got that to relate on. And so I started to open up more and more to Michael. And this was like 6-7 months after I moved to Yakima and my life had completely fallen apart. And so I was still in a very raw place. And I was starting to learn how to share that vulnerability in Narcotics Anonymous in a group setting, but also now one-on-one with my friend Michael. And there was one particular day in the afternoon on my day off that Michael contacts me and says, hey, I need to go get groceries and my normal ride to the grocery store can't make it. And my cats need food and yada, yada, yada. He's like, would you mind running me to the grocery store? And I was like, no, not at all. So I went and picked up my buddy, and that particular day, I was again having one of those days where I was just all up in my feelings, and I was on the verge of tears, and I was on the verge of yelling and screaming and angry, and it was just, I couldn't tell you exactly why, but I was just all into my anger and everything that day, and I was judging myself and I was beating myself up, and that was part of why I picked him up, is because I just needed to be around somebody or something to help me deal with whatever it was that I was going on. And so I picked Michael up, and we talked a little bit on the way from his house to the grocery store. And then we got to the grocery store and we were about to get out, and I said, hold on, Michael. I gotta confess something to you. And I won't reveal exactly what it was that I told him to you right now. That'll come later on down the road. And this particular thing was something that I was like I had never shared this with anybody. I had never spoken this particular issue out loud to anyone. And that particular day, my brain and my body and my heart knew that I needed to get that out. And so I said, "Hey man, I'm going to tell you something right now that I've never told another living soul." And so I confessed this thing to him. And he was just so gracious and so forgiving and just so non-judgmental. And he leaned over and he gave me a hug. And Michael's a big guy. And so when Michael gives you a hug, you know you got a hug. And so I just cried all over, the ugly kind of cry, tears streaming out of my eyes and snot running out of my nose. Having been able to confess and talk about this deep, dark thing that I had never told anyone else. And to this day, I believe I've only ever told one other person this particular secret. And perhaps one day I'll reveal that thing on here, but not today. Today I just want to talk about like the power that gave me to learn how to come out of that shame that I had lived in for the first 40 plus years of my life. That I thought that there was something innately wrong with me that I couldn't tell people about. That there were parts about me that if anyone ever found out, that they would hate me or reject me and turn me away, and I would be alone forever. And here I was telling that one of those things to another living soul, my friend Michael, who is still a very dear friend, and I count him among the best people that I know. And I was able to tell him this in a very cathartic way. And his shoulder was covered with my tears and snot. And he looked me in the eye and said, "I love you, man. I love you, and God loves you." And I knew that everything was going to be okay. And from that day until now, I have consistently become more and more of an honest and open person, almost to a fault sometimes. Now, there are times when I just will let information fly when maybe it's not appropriate. But I'd much rather be the type of person that was maybe at times a bit too open with sharing things than someone who never shared anything, who held it all in and who bottled it all up. Because that's what I did for the first 40 years of my life. And for the past 6 or 7, I'm a lot more open. And my life is a whole lot better. And I would encourage you that when those opportunities present themselves with those people, there's really not that many people out there that are going to judge you. There will be some, but there's a whole lot of people out there who won't judge you. And that when you share your deep, dark stuff with them, they will lean over and they will give you that hug. And you will know that you're okay and that you're not the scum on the bottom of someone's shoe. Because they know something about you, and they also know, this person will know, you'll have this bond, you'll have this connection with somebody, because they ultimately will then feel safe sharing their particular issues. Michael has shared with me some things that he probably hasn't shared with that many other people, and I've shared things with him. But it was just that particular day on a sunny afternoon in a Walmart parking lot that I had to become honest. And since that day, my life has opened up and become more and more, I've become more and more vulnerable. And it's been one of the most freeing things to realize that I am not so bad. That I have a story, and so does everyone else. I'm rambling a little bit now, but I just wanted to encourage you and share that story with you. And whether or not it helps you at all, it certainly helped me to share it. So I hope you all have a wonderful day.